Okay guys, we're back and we have a little bit of a treat today. Went to the hobby shop earlier this afternoon and I picked up my first Atlas Trayman Plus NRE Genset in the BNSF paint scheme. NRE, from what I understand looking online, is a relatively new company starting out doing rebuilds for GE, even Alcos I guess, and I guess mostly EMD equipment. As you can see, this locomotive has a lot of similarities to EMD. I guess they started developing their own locomotive line and came up with this, which is some kind of hybrid, or a genset as they call it, which is a low emission type locomotive, only producing somewhere, at least in this case, around 2,000 horsepower, give or take. So I picked one up. I've been wanting one for a little while since I first saw them when they were coming out with them earlier this year. We're going to do a sound install. I'm going to use a little bit of a different decoder this time, and I'll explain why as we get going with the install. But this is a Digitrax SDN144PS. It's a bit smaller. Actually, it's an N-scale decoder, sound decoder, which has the 8-pin NRE type of socket and a much smaller speaker. I'll see about where I'm going to put that. I may change that and put a different speaker on there, depending on where I can find room to make it fit in here, whether it be in the somewhere here in the cab, or if I can find room elsewhere. So we'll get it taken apart and we'll get the install done, and we'll do some programming, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, first thing I've done is seated the locomotive in a kind of a jig that I have here that I can move around and have different type of locomotives in. And just like with most, you'll need to remove the coupler boxes and remove those to take the shell off. And I'm doing the best I can here with one hand, the other one holding the camera. That just comes out, put that off to the side where it's not going to get lost, and then just very carefully wiggle that out without getting any of the detail messed up or destroying your coupler. And then all you got to do is turn this over, and with a little bit of wiggle we can remove the shell from the chassis. Okay, all you're doing is wiggling this back and forth until it comes out. Sorry I couldn't show it all with the camera. And once you get it, very carefully pull that off to the side, because the wires are intact to the shell for the headlight and rear headlight. So here's the Atlas stock light board, and this is the DC part of the circuit, which just wiggles and comes out. And there's your NRE 8-pin socket. Just a note that it is not recommended to run this without a DCC decoder on a DCC source or layout. They did one there at the store and it fried the motor, or not the motor but the light board. So run this only on a DC layout or a DCC layout only after installing some kind of decoder on here. Okay, I've removed the Digitrax decoder from its packaging, and according to its diagram it shows that the bottom, in this case bottom right hand side, is pin 1, and if I look here on the stock light board, I know it's difficult to see behind the wire, but there is a number 1 that's right in there. So that's telling me that pin 1 again goes in the bottom right hand corner. It's very important not to screw this part up, because you will probably below the decoder and possibly even the light board. And make sure that's in here snug. Flyman JG also did a install recently on a Atlas Genset as well. He just put a mobile decoder in his, but it was actually very helpful in setting up this install. Now I went with the N-scale decoder for a few reasons. One, I had the 8-pin setup versus the 9-pin setup I've been using on most of the Otherns and some of the others that I've been doing. Two, this is considerably smaller, not only in speaker size but in decoder size, which will fit much nicer on the shell because the clearance of the hood, of the long hood, is not much higher than the light board and the rest of the mechanism that's in here. So my first plan is, and we'll see how it goes, is to double this back so I have room to mount the speaker in here. And for right now I'll keep the stock speaker, which is a bit small for HO. At some point I'll probably put a little bit bigger speaker in here and try to find room either up in here or perhaps up in the cab somewhere so I can get a little bit more volume out of it. Okay, the decoder's in and we're doing a bench test. I've already gone ahead and put in a custom sound project, which is going to require some more tweaking. From what I understand, the NRE isn't really using a prime mover per se, but they're using, in this locomotive, 3 gensets is what they're calling them. I'm not really quite sure how the technology works, but it has more of a hum sound to it than it does your typical diesel sound. But to recap real quick, the 8-pin plug is in. Remember that pin number 1 is in the bottom right hand corner in this instance, and I basically flipped it over. Have the decoder taped on here, which I'm hoping has enough room to clear the hood. It's a pretty small decoder, so it might fit. And I have determined that the little speaker that it comes with really sucks, and I will most definitely replace as soon as I acquire one. But I'll keep it in there for now, and once I get the hood on, I'm sure it'll have a little bit more juice to it. Not a whole lot of volume. But if you've seen my other videos, you know most of the time I replace the speaker anyway, so we'll do that down the road here. And I'll put the shell on and we'll see how it goes. Okay guys, that's pretty much it for the install. I had no problem putting the decoder in on top of the light board and having it fit between the light board and the long hood. The speaker, when I showed the video earlier, was resting on top of the chassis. I actually had to stick that inside the cab for it to fit. And when I go to put the bigger speaker in, this is a medium oval, I'll probably end up getting a small oval or a mini oval. I'll probably have to modify part of the base, if not all of the base, of the cab, because there's an enclosure here in the cab, to have the speaker fit in there, but not a big deal. Otherwise it's ready to go. Again, the volume is a little low until I get that speaker in.